Hello, hey, hi everybody, social media family. Being whatsoever racist, but then not necessarily being whatever walks of life, factions of society, lifestyle preferences. I mean, there's a reason or purpose for that of my person haven't mentioned at last, as I have done or did. I mean, you have got to recognize and or realize that not anybody and everybody is family, you know. So I say. But then, likewise, I greet you all otherwise being of any visitors to that being of my own personal channel, chat room, and our comment section. And although you yourselves, being of the likes, could possibly have become or be of whatever walks of life, factions of society, or lifestyle preferences, as well as whatever races, but then hopefully my social media family would not be of, you know, that being whatever walks of life, factions of society, or lifestyle preferences. But then, if any are, or disregard this here, I have this for a lady friend. It's not for myself. But then, if you are of some or such other, vice versa, just as long as you don't come upon my channel and or into my comments, into my chat room and or comment section, misbehaving like some kind, sort, or type of a negative internet troll character, then we won't have a problem. Okay? And regardless of whichever your gender may be or could have possibly have become, or whichever you choose to be recognized and realized to be of. This goes for the young as well as the old. You know. Anyway, though, how you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay, if not better yet to be said, to be feeling all right. Or if not best of all, to be said to be feeling blessed and stressed, more blessed and stressed, or too blessed to possibly be calm or be stressed. You and yours, your family and friends, and hopefully me and mine likewise as well, or all the same. Yeah, so now that I've gotten the preliminaries out the way, or the basic introduction, at least I think I have, and even if I did not express myself like I would have wanted to, but then nevertheless, I think you all get the general idea of what I'm trying to say, regardless. Okay? So far, the basic intro as an introduction is concerned, and then I will shortly after speak upon some kind, sort of type of subject matter or a topic of discussion to be debated, or that of a given argument with many different views and or opinions to be associated with and or representing that being of the same, for whatever that may be, or for how many I could possibly speak upon at one given moment in time, depending on how that of my person I'm feeling like as of the present given moment in time. And believe me when I say I'm not feeling too good at the moment, so far as to look at matters from a physical point of view, and as I suspect that, a doctor or a nurse could have possibly had given me, unless it's a neighbor from hell, whom could have possibly sabotaged my general physical health, and then which could possibly affect my general mental health as of the present given moment in time, or most recently, because I suspect that the other being a vice versa could have possibly happened with a doctor or a nurse, just as much or equal as well, or the same as a neighbor from hell character, or one of the dime a dozen public nuisance and problem neighbors could have gotten to me in some kind of way, trespass my premises, property, a place resident, then from there could have possibly have done a number upon me without my permission or without my consent, as well as without my knowledge. But then getting back to some of such other, as I suspected, a doctor, nurse, as I was about to say, or to complete a former previous prior line thought, as I think of it with mind's attention to backtrack here, with reasonable purposes being to do just that, as I go on with the following from where I had last left off, as I suspect a doctor or nurse could have equally as well have, done something foul to me so far as that poisonous vaccine, being of which I myself am personally against, whereas a doctor or nurse could have given it to me without my permission or without my consent, as well as without my knowledge. Yes, and was I'm feeling all this congestion and then some in pain, And whereas once again, lately or most recently, I've been waking up in the morning with rather severe, serious sinus problems, and then my throat is sore, and my stomach is hurting me. One part of my arm is causing me pain, and one part of my leg is causing me pain on the same side of my physical body. But then a third alternative cause of some of such could possibly be the results of development of an exterminator coming to my place, exterminating with some extermination sprays, being of which I suspect or believe I myself being that I'm a person to be allergic to. And yet I suspect someone or such one of that nature is continuing to enter my place of residence when I'm not here to spray against my wishes, without my permission or without my consent, and as well as without my knowledge. But then, this is not what I wish to talk about, for this particular video as we have at the present, or to discuss of this present social media broadcast. But I just thought to mention some such now that it comes to mind as I was going about, the basic intro as an introduction. Then now that I have gotten the preliminaries out the way, but then feel free to visit other channels. That much more I say, and I'll stay for the record if you're one of those being of the likes of internet trolls of so much negativity when I can get more than enough of my own demons, as some of us give them time. Because if you come on my channel or into my chat room and or comment section with all that nonsense of counterproductive crap, or so much F and BS to put it mildly, then first of all, I will silence your chat. First of all, I will silence your chat, and then second of all, I will block you. And very few people or persons being of whom I block do I permit re-access to that my channel, chat room, and comment section, being because the majority of most persons coming off like characters being of whom I block, then they themselves are blocked permanently. So tread lightly. I've said the same thing in the footnotes in due regard in reference to those matters, and possibly likewise for the other commentary that would come before the footnotes. Anyway, though, and now that I gotten the preliminaries, the basic intro out of the way, then I wish to speak upon a rather controversial subject matter, a topic of discussion of a given argument that is happening much more often than not, and as it is regarded making reference to some of such persons among the ethnic minorities of non-Caucasians, And if you all have been viewing and listening to that of a most recent current events news story at such a given moment in time, whereas it was regarding or making reference to how 3 racist redneck male individual persons, regardless of whether or not, well, hopefully they were not closet Klan and closet neo-Nazis, whereas they had violently physically assaulted or attacked a black male individual person, and had literally actually murdered or killed him, and whereas their trial is taking place now, And I was originally going to compose a social media broadcast or video in that same line of thought, but something come up, pardon upon none intended, and no offense is meant to be possibly directed at the deceased who had become the victim of those monsters or bonehead, butthead, brain dead, brainless, brainwashed idiots, or morons and or sickles, Yeah, I wanted to compose this social media broadcast or video as, like, say ASAP as soon as possible, but with the underlining physical health issues being of which I had become subjected to experiencing, I wasn't able to do so as early as I would have liked to. I mean, I'm barely doing some such now, whereas I'm forcing myself to finally get this particular social media broadcast or video out the way, to go about composing, broadcasting it and then posting some or such of this nature, And whereas I should be laying down trying to get a little cat nap before I were to, call the night out again and get my beauty rest, and because I had already explained to you all the symptoms being of which I have become subjected to experiencing. And I'm wondering if I may have to pay another visit to a local medical establishments, facilities, premises, properties, for that a vicinity area neighborhood community hospital, and then be followed at a clinic, sometime soon enough again. And disregard what you had heard in the background. It is just one of these dime a dozen public nuisances of problem neighbors, of characters, of the likes, proverbial neighbors from hell. As stupid does as stupid feels, and more of those being of whom are of the black persuasion, I suspect, are the same, willingly letter fulfilling niggas or niggers who make the rest of us black persons look bad, as they cause the black race of people's persons to become subjected to experiencing an even worse social injustice coming from the likes of them, more than that being of which could come from the racist rednecks who discredit their own Caucasian race of people's persons. Yes, as they do the job of racist rednecks of closet Klan and closet neo-Nazis for them for little nothing. And prove themselves to be an even worse threat to a black race of people's person. But getting back to some or such other, as more or less relates to what I was trying to say, or am about to go into much further specific details about, regarding making reference to that of the news story headline, or headline news story, however said, one of the most recent social injustices being of which complements racism, whereas I wanted to compose it yesterday, but each and every time I try to think to put forth the efforts and as had gone about necessarily being the hand to try to do just that, to transform those thoughts into actions as I was trying to compose it then and there as a thought. I lost the feed, and some such given moment in time, as a result of developments of a computer hacker or computer glitch or whatever, who can say. So from there, after a while, I just closed shop and said, "Oh, I'm done. I have got to get my sleep. Get this. And so I had thought to do it the next day, being a witches for now for this particular day. And so, as you all have heard, 3 white male individual persons or 3 Caucasian men had violently physically assaulted a black male individual person, otherwise being of a different race, and they murdered and killed him. And now they're on trial. They're on trial, being tried, having to go before a judge, jury, and prosecutor, or attorneys and lawyers, as well as counsel for the defense. Yeah. But though that was tragic, and I just said I would put a twist on a much earlier planned social media broadcast of video, being of which would complement, that this particular news story headline that I wish to have given my own views and opinions on. I wish you had done just that yesterday, but since I wasn't able to do so then and there, I'm doing it here and now. But though rather tragic, yet, and as I put a twist on it, in view of the circumstances of an extenuating nature upon the conditions of a case of situation, being what I had become subjected to experiencing just today, this afternoon, coming from another black male, whereas I had become a passenger of a mass transit of a public transportation system, and as part of the ridership, whereas this is regardless of whether it was for a bus or train route. But this black male individual person coming off like a character was supposed to have been seated or sitting behind or in back of me, whereas a white girl, as in Caucasian woman, was standing in front of me. And he got to assuming things, and he was like acting like he wanted to hit me in the head with something, or stick me in my back with something all the same, that it be said and stated for the record. Whereas I kind of sensed something was happening. My spider senses got the tingling, and I'm looking out the corner of my eye, and then I see him like try to shrug it off after he had seen that his assumptions were not all that cracked up to be as he thought it was, a case of situation, put me in the category of classifying me as one of the rank and file of characters of the usual suspects or public enemy number ones, and at the same time, or while he himself is coming off like one, a character that likes those kind. And I was offended behind that. I got some sort of great resentment. As a matter of fact, I got up out my seat and went through the aisle to sit elsewhere to a much more preferred seating plan arrangement behind that. I'm like, what? Are you freaking kidding me? An assault upon another passenger for ridership of a mass transit of a public transportation system will get you 1 year in the can for starters. Well, that all depends on how severe or serious the incident is, then it could get you more time, especially if a person comes up injured, being of another passenger as a result of developments of somebody else's stupid assumptions. If you were to come off like some kind of vigilante, but then if you don't have the full money, I mean, they usually it's supposed to be two sides to a story, like, two sides of a coin. So I got offended behind that. And so now, whereas I originally wanted to compose the social media broadcast of video in Duergar in reference to that, I think the black male's name was Lamont Overy or Armory. No offense meant. I just don't remember what his last name is supposed to be. It sounded something like that. I don't know the spelling or how it's, well, gone about it, especially right. The black male that was violently physically assaulted or attacked by three white male individual persons or Caucasian men who got to assuming in their own right they made their own stupid assumptions, and now look where they're at. The same way this one black male could possibly end up at if he had, acted that much more upon his assumptions of a line of thought for me if he hadn't thought to look much further with before they act like he was about to assault or attack me before he had, changed his mind. I'm like, what? Are you Are you freaking kidding me? I'm like thinking. So now I wish to put a twist on this news headline story otherwise. Because I no, get me wrong, I'm not meaning this sound, seem like, I mean, I try to look at both sides of the coin, or as there's supposed to be two sides of the story, but you know, after my own personal experiences with certain black persons coming off like Willie Lynch letter fulfilling nigger, excuse my language, pardon French, bastards and bitches. So now I get to thinking, well, maybe the black male that was violently physically assaulted, attacked by the three Caucasian male or three white men, maybe he himself was not only partly responsible, but more often than not, greatly playing a part in his own demise or injuries having been sustained or his own death as he is now, one who is not in the land of living or one who is of the deceased of human souls. Because as I remember it, as part of that news story, he was supposed to be venturing on premises of properties or real estate that was not his. I mean, it's one thing to go sightseeing. It's another thing to be attempting to confiscate property, being of which is not your own or which you're not the owner of some or such. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, so far as in reflecting upon still another white boy who violently physically attacked, assaulted somebody. I'm talking about the white boy, Caucasian male or white man that went to a black church and, shot dead 9 black persons. Now that was inexcusable. I mean, with little or no doubt, that guy or fella, he was out for blood, and so he should be given the chair or the hot seat, the electric chair, or the gas chamber, or should be given life in prison. Now, so far as still another white boy that went on a shooting spree, whereas there was 2 groups of people, the persons, protesters and supporters of some cause, you know. Anyway, though, whereas he's on trial himself. But getting back to the original topic of discussion of the subject matter, given an argument to be debated with the many different views and opinions to be associated with some or such. So this black male was attacked by 3 white men. I mean, who can say whether or not he could have possibly played a part in his own untimely demise or death? Untimely demise is a milder way of saying how he himself is no longer in the land of the living or one of the deceased. But, after what I had become subject to experiencing upon principles and properties of mass transit and public transportation system, I'm kind of wondering because I do remember part of a news story where this same black male was venturing upon premises of properties that was not his own, whereas he was not the owner of some and such. He did not have the license deed of ownership, for real estate as that being. Yeah, you never know. You know, I mean, why should you trespass somebody else's piece of the properties, knowing that your name is not upon the lease, or you don't have that the deed of ownership for its real estate. You understand what I'm saying? And then so far the black male that was shot in the back, shot multiple times, and now is a paraplegic, though he was lucky or been blessed to survive, whereas he's still in the land of the living. Well, if the police tell you to stop, why don't you just do that? Why are you gonna make a run for it? That's like you snub your nose at the police or cops. You're like say, or how you say, you disobeying an order. You're not respecting police authority. You know, okay. So he kind of brought that on himself, likewise, as well. Though he is still living. I know some would tend to disagree with me or differ compared to, I'm sure others would agree. But then some would say that does not excuse the cold-blooded murder of George Floyd. No, it doesn't. It don't. So I agree with others. You know, those police officers, the ones that could have intervened in his behalf, they're just as guilty as the actual police officer that had murdered or killed him. You know, to be compared on to another dirty cop of his kind that has still killed in cold blood another black male individual person. You know, upon an interstate highway is what I mean to say. Whereas his fellow police officer stepped aside and he went at the young black male who was supposed to been, carrying a knife, and he shot him dead, shot him multiple times, and whereas the black male was up under the influences, drinks and drugs, as I'm hearing it. So he should have been that much more, you know, sympathetic or empathetic to the black male individual. The white cop that had done it, the dirty cop of a white police officer, a white policeman. Anyway, this is where I'm at, you all, as of the present moment in time, and give my views and opinions upon a Lamont Overy or Lamont Armory news headline story. No offense is meant, none intended. I just don't remember his last name. I wasn't poking fun at him, believe it or not, Then I'm going to end this here social media broadcast or video on this last note of interest, as I would usually give the greeting. Then from there, I'll speak upon a subject matter, a topic of discussion, or give an argument, one or a couple, few, or maybe more, depending on how I could possibly feel at some given moment in time. And then I will give the conclusion of the matter, as I usually were to think to do so, be I were to speak as I'm inspired or have to force myself to say something such in due regard in reference to how I would say. So I paraphrase my quote exactly, and that is by saying, if you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins, by recognizing or realizing what he himself had done or did, or whatever I have said, be I speak correct, proper, standard English grammar, American dialect of some such quality and quantities or not. And as I think of it with that in my mind, I tend to try to backtrack here with real purpose being, or else I can go on to following to continue from where and when that my person at last left off, so I can finish up as a complete a form of previous prayer line talk in that same word. Whereas he had given his life upon the cross of Calvary to become that perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. So that if any of us, being of whatsoever races and whatever walks of life, factions of society, or lifestyle preferences, being of the old, young, like both two sexual genders, the male and female, represent not only the human species, but then nevertheless the globe community within this post 911 era of our new millennium apocalyptic day and age, and whereas the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight compared on our former prior to then. It was at a quarter midnight for these rather biblically prophetic times. Were to profess some of such faith in him in accordance to religious, supernatural, spiritual beliefs. From there, we become or be blessed in one regard or another, in more ways than one. We were to recognize how he had given his life upon the cross Calvary, suffering at the hands of Roman soldiers upon the orders of this superior religious and otherwise centurion Caesar's necessity. Then that's ways he went to that cross Calvary to fulfill biblical prophecy, become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me. So if any of us being of whatsoever race and whatever walks life, faction, society, lifestyle preferences, being of the old, young, like both two sexual gender, males and females, represent not only the human species, but then nevertheless the global community within this post 911 era of a new millennium apocalyptic day and age, where the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight compared on our formerly previous prior to then was at a quarter midnight for these by biblically prophetic times. Where to profess some such faith in them, from there we become or be blessed in one regard or another, more ways more. First and foremost, with this salvation, being which is the only means by which any of us can or could possibly hope to become citizens of the kingdom of heaven. And second of all, where we'll be blessed with his deliverance while we're still here. But then, unless you have that blood sacrifice of atonement or redemption as an insurance policy for your immortal human soul for the afterlife or the hereafter, whereas if you don't have it, once you were to cross on over to the other side, make the transition for the great beyond, then your final resting place would be with the rest of the lost, damned human souls of unbelievers and non-believers who did not accept Christ as their personal Lord and Savior, but had continued to reject his salvation. they would be tortured and terrorized by the devil and his demons. Come what may, compare to how we, as believing God, will be across the great divide that separates heaven from hell, in the company of like-minded believers, and in the company of God and his angels, otherwise as citizens of the kingdom of heaven.